It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to bring to order the special meeting of July the 6th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Mullen.
Here.
Wagers. Here. Wyman. Here. Hanlon. Here. Novel.
Here. Pledge allegiance, please. Salute, pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you. We got a coin of excellence award.
Excellence. I'm gonna ask Miss Jeannie Carpenter and Miss Suzanne Sanders to come up. I love your shirt. Thank you. And Miss Carpenter was nominated by Miss Sanders, and she serves as an Indian education tutor for 20 years. She deserves recognition for exemplary service and attention to students and their needs, and she cares deeply for the children. She works with laser focused help, helping them to succeed. And they also benefit from her knowledge as a Muskogee Nation citizen while teaching them about their tribal nations. She is steadfast, anchored for the tutoring program, always patient with everyone, whether coworker or student. And the end of the year teacher evaluations always mention how much the children love her and how much she has helped them. She is simply outstanding, and we are blessed to have her on the Indian education team. Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you so much. Would you like to add anything?
Read it perfectly. It's been wonderful, and she's been such a blessing to me for these 20 years and to our students. So yes, appreciate you.
Aw, that's awesome.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving on to Paysetter Awards.
I'll go first. You looked at me.
You go first.
Okay, I have an award for Sarah Finelli. I hope I said that right. And the nomination is by Morgan Douglas. Come on up. It says Sarah has gone above and beyond in running the Early Learning Center, which we all know can be crazy. She is an overall great employee who truly cares about her students and staff. She is organized and efficient, which I'm sure you have to be for that. She is totally deserving of a Pacesetter Award. Congratulations. And this says Sarah Finelli for outstanding achievements and accomplishments in representing Sand Springs Public Schools and community at large. Congratulations.
I do actually. That was kind of short.
But no, I have enjoyed so much working alongside Sarah, and she came in at a moment's notice and took the leap, and she has been all in ever since then. She's come up with great ideas. She's applied for numerous grants, upwards of $100,000. Just applied for another one today. So the grants aren't needed to keep our daycare running, but they are a great asset in getting our young ones just the things that they need in the classroom and things like that. So I'm looking forward to working alongside her for many years to come, and she's just a great asset.
What is the enrollment? Let's talk about the enrollment for a minute. So how many kids do we have now? We've grown from maybe upwards of 10 to 12 children to how many?
I think we've got 32. Yeah, starting in August.
Yeah, with a few more to come after
With
school.
about 6 more to come by December, January. Little babies.
And those are the ones we know about.
Yeah, those are the ones we know about now.
we get questions a lot about how are we gonna raise the cost of it? Because we do want to break even, and through her efforts with grants, and I want to say it's over 100,000. I think it's more like 120,000 over the course of this last year, which has absolutely kept us in a place where we didn't have to raise any kind of rate. So fantastic.
And I'll also just add, the world of daycare is so different than even public education. So her knowledge coming into this, and because I've been learning, her knowledge has just been so paramount and keeping everything afloat. So
Fantastic.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, gotcha.
We're good to go over the vote.
Very nice. I'm excited to make one last presentation, and I was just looking at this. And on the nomination form, one sentence stands out, says, "We're looking for excellence." And we found it, Mike Bynum.
Yeah.
I gotta tell a few things about Mike Bynum because he has worn many hats at Sand Spring Schools. He a student, a Sandite, an excellent teacher of the year in Oklahoma. Story about that, my daughter had him in class when he was nominated for teacher of the year in Oklahoma. She was so excited. He won. He's won. Then she realized he won't be in my classroom next year. She went from a super high to she's so excited for Mike Bynum, but she was upset that she didn't get to have him as her teacher for one more year. So I thought that says so much about this fine young man that we're talking about here. I appreciate what he does. Another hat that he wears is he was our basketball coach for a number of years. Very successful basketball coach. Dealing with all those basketball players. Wow, what a deal. And then he decided he wanted to get into something that maybe is not as glamorous as teaching. Mike and I have something in common. What he does for Sand Spring Schools, I do, that's my job as well. We take care of facility. And I tell my people, and I'm sure Mike does the same thing, is that we do our best job when nobody knows we're around. Because we don't want our clients having to think about, is the air conditioning working? Is the trash picked up? Do the lights work? Does the toilet flush? All those things that Mike Bynum takes care of. And because he takes care of them so well, it just flows. Although he's had challenges, more than his share of challenges, or I call them opportunities. We've had gas situations a couple of times. We've had floods. We've had, hail,
Freezing pipes.
all kinds of, and Mike Bynum, when I said excellence, that's what it exemplifies right here. So Christy Newby recognized that, and she made the nomination, and I won't read it unless you will come up and share more. Please, but like I say, Mike, I appreciate what you do. I know it's not easy. And I know that what you do and what you did is just something that just doesn't happen unless you really have a passion for what you do. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. So excellent. Very much. Very good, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
2, 3.
And Ms. Durkee, did you want to share anything about?
Well, the current faux pas, I won't even tell you what he tells me his nickname is. We're gonna talk about that. However, when he calls, he goes, "I bet you don't want to hear from me." So the conversation this week was, can you just call me at some point? Not to bear bad news, because the latest one, I've got litigation at the Fine Arts Building. What do you mean? It's no win at the Fine Arts Building, but as you all are very well aware, we had a unusual predicament that we declared an emergency on last time, and he just handles it, which is phenomenal. But just know that this is the second huge emergency time that we've had over the last 2 years and 4 months, I think, that he's handled beautifully. And that's a little rare, by the way. So anyway, lots of praise.
It's also been known to unlock the locker room so your kid can get his wrestling shoes out.
Exactly.
All right, we will move on to student and staff empowerment.
So just kind of to start, I want to talk a little bit about our leadership team because I joked today about when June's happening, summer's here, and you just are kind of on this upward roll. And then July 4th happens, which is exciting. But then after July 4th, you're hit in the face with, oh my gosh, we have to get ready for school. These guys will just come at the drop of a hat to a meeting. So we had a meeting, wrapped up the year outside of half their contracts, by the way, and they showed up to talk about plans for next year, storm mitigation, what's wrong in your building, how many teachers do you have? Let's talk teacher raises, all things that they needed to know prior to coming back for the next year. And so I really want to say that publicly because I would compare our leadership team to anyone and put them against anyone in terms of their just expertise and professionalism. So kudos to those folks. Golly, you guys. So teachers, hiring teachers. Kristen Arnold did a rendition of how many openings we have right now. I still brag because the number of openings we have is still smaller than I think most districts. We did a comparison of how many teachers we hired last year certified to this year. Last year, we onboarded 42 teachers, and this year we've onboarded 30 that were vacancies, and then we added 10 positions. So while it seems like the work's been a lot over the month of June, just keep in mind we started early, posted early, but the number of exits, regardless of whether it was retirements, resignations to go to a different district or resignations to go to a different occupation, it is about the same. So I think that's something Sandites can be proud of. We continue to struggle with special ed, but we also continue to have 2 retired teachers that are willing to come back into those positions. So we have no vacancies in 2 of those places. We had a late resignation at the high school, so we still have 1 special ed opening at Charles Page High School. We have 1 opening perhaps at ECEC, however, may pause a little bit because caseload has to rise to the extent that we need that. So we're really still okay. We have 2 5th grade openings at Garfield. 1 person that accepted a job earlier this summer has backed out. So it's just kind of this wane and waxing of an interesting time, kind of a little bit tumultuous than we're used to. And then 2 kindergarten positions at Northwoods Fine Arts Academy. All of those have prospects. The latest exit was Jason Carney from last week. I think I emailed you guys to tell you that. And JJ Smith already has a prospect for history. So we're pretty confident that when school starts, we'll be relatively full. The good news is Angus is fully staffed. Limestone is fully staffed, except for the contract for speech pathologist. Pratt is fully staffed. Clyde Boyd Middle School is fully staffed. The freshman academy was fully staffed last week until that exit, and Charles Page High School is lacking a special ed teacher. So overall, I don't know that we have anything to complain about because if you look at postings from various districts, you'll see that it's a lot larger. So I'm proud of that still. I will say when you look at our postings, just remember that emergency certified positions must be posted because we have to show due diligence. So sometimes when you pull up the employment page, you see, oh my goodness, we have a lot of openings. Not necessarily, because to continue those on emergency certs, we have to make sure the State Department knows we're trying to find certified teachers. And so that's why. So you'll see a lot of those start to drop off because we're getting solid in our folks for next year. So I'd say it's a good report, I think. I still stress a little bit because I don't like openings at the beginning, but Kristen reminded me today, we have a full month until school starts. And so I met with 2 groups of new hires this morning. So approximately 11 teachers came in to meet with me before school starts, and they are all so excited. 2 were from Union that we stole away. 1 was from Jinx. 1 was from Texas, California. 1 had been at Bartlesville, had moved to, just all over the place. I had a question from one of you about how does that happen that from our employment portal, it goes to Indeed, so it hits the nation. So we've been blessed. People are searching our school district out, and we've had a few people that have come home. So Morgan Douglas's husband, for instance, is coming home and he's teaching at Charles Page High School in the fall. So I think it's a good message, I think, for us. So I still continue to be proud of where we're at, but did want to give you that update. New salary schedules, you're gonna see them on tonight's agenda under items 44 through 46, just so you know. And I think I've said in the emails to all of you before, we've agreed to pay percent of the teacher retirement burden this year. So you'll see that as a resolution that you'll read out loud per encouragement from our attorney to make sure we're doing that right, alongside the resolution for administrators that we really have never done. I'm going to make a comment. Everything was completely followed as designated by law, and we should get a lump sum of money to help cover those raises. What we don't know right now is how much further we can go with support. So that's still a little up in the air. You'll see by the August meeting a recommendation to start adding to those people as well. So we really want to work hard to take care of our support staff too. Of course, administrators were included in that apportionment of raises that were required by law. So you'll see that as a piece of the scale as well. And then we did adjust our support staff scale and literally dropped about 5 levels from the bottom. So from this day forward, no support employee can start below $11, slightly over $12.23 an hour. So I think we're in a good place. We still have room to grow, but again, until we know a solid number of state aid increase from the legislation, they made some factor changes, which makes me a little bit nervous. So they adjusted economically disadvantaged, which should help, but they also adjusted transportation, which is a puzzle because rural schools typically will benefit a little bit more than we do from transportation because of the driving distance. So I'm not sure how, we're a little unclear about how that's going to come out. We have some perspective. I think we're close, but we want to make sure that we have enough to cover what we say we're going to do. So, and we still think that we can provide the stipends in December as well. So we're in a good place. I would love to see over the next 2 or 3 years some stability so that we're not worrying necessarily at all about level of state aid decreasing. If you remember my first year, we were in tremendous cuts. And so I lunged into this position, meeting with every administrator individually saying, okay, what positions can you give up this year? So I hope and pray that we continue to be on the path that we're on. Right now, it's good. So let's see, one student transfer appeal, you will see under items 41 and 42, just a reminder. This is a trip to executive session, so you guys can discuss as a group. Because we chose to do paper appeals, it's on you guys. I don't attend those, so neither does the parent. So as you know, your commission to make sure we followed our policy. And just as a reminder, it is attached, but 3 reasons we would deny transfer. One is capacity, of course, but then the other 2 are about attendance and behavior. So just as a reminder about what the law says. And I think that concludes teacher and staff empowerment or student and staff empowerment, unless you guys have questions.
All right, let's move on to,
Okay, if they leave. But once.
oh, yeah. Usually we do that right after.
Usually, excuse
If
me.
anybody wants to leave, they can leave. Good time. Or you can stay here and listen to Mr.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
You're missing out.
So under finance, if you're ready to move on to item number
Yeah.
6.
Resource.
Yeah. The Firm Influence newsletter is attached. You all know that he gives a reflection at the end, but the coast is doing the real work on the tables and such. A cautious optimism was a word that was actually quoted in the bottom. And I say that I feel like every month, and I feel like I repeat myself every single month, but I think in the school world, you kind of have to go into any budget year with caution. I did add the Steve Lewis Capital News Update. He's an attorney in Tulsa that has a newsletter that anyone can subscribe to. He covers all topics, by the way. So sometimes it's very relative to what I want to read, and sometimes it's not. This one I attached because he really goes deep on the cost of the tax credit bill and what it's likely due to state revenue. And I think that we all need to remember how futuristically that can affect state revenue in regard to how much money the legislature has to appropriate. That is a real thing. And I thought he did a really good job of describing how that could play out. Let's see, I've already talked about support staff raises. This is a place where we want to talk about resources, which includes our facilities. And so again, this is the second time we've had to call emergency meetings, declare emergencies on buildings based on a weather occurrence. And as you know, from personal experiences with the strong winds, that they're not calling a tornado, however, kind of question. We had some damage again. And so 2.5 years after we mitigated the first time, at least in my stint as superintendent, here we are talking about the same kinds of things. There's attachment. Mike's keeping a really good record of the kinds of repairs that are going on, but I do want to give you a chance to kind of update where you've been over the last couple of weeks, so they're clear.
Okay, just update on all facilities. Start on the north side, EC and EC, Northwoods. Besides the random limbs down, they fared pretty well, no problems. Geography helped us on both of those. The Sand Springs Home Hill guarded us in one place, and down at Northwoods in the valley, they were okay. Garfield took a pretty bad hit on the playground with trees being down. However, so far we have found no damage to the playground equipment. So we are still just pulling on. We do have some chain link damage there, but that's minor compared to other things. The high school itself fared pretty well. Again, limbs and trees down everywhere. We are aware of the kind of there's a Widowmaker hanging by the tennis courts. I have a road closed. That one will be addressed just right now. Same thing with the track that's behind Morgan School at ECEC. We know we have some issues back there. It's just we're not able to get there yet. But we are aware of the big, huge, monstrous limb that is hanging down by the tennis courts, and it will be addressed at some point. The high school, other than that, the high school did okay, except for the PAC. And the PAC, as you know, flooded top to bottom. That flood was caused by, in that facility we have, if you remember, they're not automatic flushing toilets, they're hardwired, push a button in the wall flushing toilets. And for whatever reason, when the power went off and then came back on, we had a urinal that thought it was time to flush, and it flushed
A lot.
for 3 days. And because of the design of the urinal, it was not clogged. The design of the urinal's just not made to take that constant stream, and there it goes. That's where we immediately turn things over to CCR. They're our disaster recovery company they've saved Jim's Forest for us. They redid Angus for us. They're great. And they've been on that for a while. We're looking at September or after for that building to be completed. That doesn't mean we won't be able to get some people in there and get that building being used. But as far as being done, it's going to be probably after September. Doors alone are 6 weeks out.
The elevator is another big cost of that,
Elevator.
separate from CCR.
Correct. Otis will not deal with third party going, will deal directly with us. We've already got the quote on part of it, but that repair is going to be something to the effect of we need to get in there and start repairing X before we can tell if Y is good, before we can tell if Z is good. But that one could go to 6 figures easy just to repair the elevator. I think that takes care of the north side.
I would like to insert Kyle Wright and his team were notified pretty quickly. And so they uncovered all of the things they covered up. So he and his team have instruments and such stored in this building behind the cheer gym. They're going to move to the auditorium stage for band practice temporarily. And they just work together. Andrew Campfield, the whole team, Fine Arts Group is such a tight knit family, honestly, that they just jump in and say, okay, here's how to figure this out. And that's what they've done today.
Why don't we get a bacterial growth in there? Do we get it cleaned up before the mold started?
Talk about CCR. Yes. The first thing they do is they jump in with if you saw the big behemoth parked up beside the PAC, that is one giant air dryer. And the entire time that they're pulling air, they're also starting the sanitization. And they use a ozone type air circulator. So yes, that's one thing they jump on immediately. Also, even so far as every piece of equipment in there, whether it got wet or not, will be wiped down and sanitized before it's put back. So yes, Larry and his company are amazing.
We think they're going to replace potentially the stair. I mean, the whole stair. It's terrible. So, well, not the stairs themselves, but the carpet and the tile that goes on top anyway.
On the south side, Pratt and Boyd actually fared pretty well. Of course, trees and limbs down, but as far as damage goes, didn't have a lot, if hardly at all. Maybe a broken window, that's about it. At Limestone, the facility itself hung in there pretty good, but for whatever reason, the power outage and surges took out 14 of our new thermostats. Those have already been replaced, and they have been saved. The company has been told to save them in case our insurance wants to look at them, but it got 14 of the thermostats. Then you get to the fun part. Sports complex took a hard hit. You've seen the, I'm sure you've probably driven by, major damage to multiple things at the sports complex. Good news is the building itself held up pretty well. The metal siding, we have some punctures to repair. One corner of the building roof needs to be repaired, but the building structures themselves hung in there pretty good. But the outfield fence, one light pole, one dugout were hammered pretty hard. Jeannie has actually now have a bid package out on that for more of a general contractor job. Those bids are due back July 11th, so that work will hopefully be starting soon. At my facility at the bus barn, we actually had a lot of vehicle damage. The west facing windows of a lot of our buses got blown out. That had to have been, we think, by debris probably. But lost a lot of windows. We lost part of the awning. One of our abandoned mobile buildings that we used to have behind one of our elementaries actually is blown over on its own. So then you move down to Angus. Angus is pretty much our only facility that has a shingle roof, and it got hammered. It's probably due for a complete replacement. Additionally, the roof that is on top of the old gym, which was also the old cafeteria, that is a flat asphalt roof. It was actually lifted, cracked, and then came back down. We had to do some emergency work just to tack down the corners of that roof so that the next wind that comes through doesn't take the whole thing off. So our roofing companies have been amazing jumping and helping us on emergency stuff like that. They had us tarped at, they have our rough shingle patches. They have those tarped and covered within a day or two. So we have all the rain that we've been having the last few days. We have not taken additional water damage because those guys jumped on floor so quick. Additionally, there was some minor damage to the new gym facing the metal siding of the new gym, but of course the structure is fine. And we did lose an awning with the new awning that connected the original Angus to the new gym was taken.
And dropped so that it literally the new gym. So there's that. So it's just, sorry, I'm a little bit
No, you're
bitter.
fine. Yeah, we can talk for days. And then finally, I think the final biggest piece, and my bids are actually due back tomorrow. That is the back corner of Angus's playground has 8 or 12 huge trees back there. And those are currently 7 of those are now on are down. They're of such a size that I'm having to have a company come out and take care of that. And by say a company, I'm talking a crew of a dozen or more with a chipper truck and a large truck that has the claw. I mean, it's a major job. We do have some of our trees down on specifically around Angus. We are in the process of those trees that are there will be taken away on our side. However, they are aware that the actual damage to their structure, to mainly just their fence, is on their insurance. But we are taking care of getting their tree off because we're not just going to take our tree off to their fence line and just stop and leave the rest of the land there. We're going to get the tree out, but they are aware that their own insurance has to cover their damage. And then finally, I do thank you for the Pace Center award, but I'll accept it only on behalf of my guys. I mean, we're on our 3rd week of just hauling brush. We have not mowed a blade of grass. We have not moved a box. I have not sprayed anything in 3 weeks because we're just hauling branches and chainsaw. And we were doing that. My guys were out there doing it last week at 110, and they're doing it today in the rain. So I'll accept it on behalf of them. And additionally, accept on behalf of the groups that have stepped up to help us out. We have multiple churches on our grounds helping us out with doing a bunch of things that we really, really, really appreciate.
So therefore, we're going to be asking for an emergency declaration on Angus Valley, and I'm assuming baseball complex as well. or are we competitive?
We're going emergency on that as well.
Okay.
We are getting multiple bids, so we're not just going.
Okay, so you're gonna see Angus, but we're gonna make sure we include the baseball complex. What I noticed when I went out, and by the way, it takes time. You don't get assessments on multiple facilities that fast. You want it done quickly, but for instance, I mean, you guys were out of the state, so emergency meeting couldn't be called last week anyway. But just to get the adjuster out to look at everything that is wrong takes time. And so one of them got COVID and couldn't come, so that was a delay. It's just been a little bit nightmarish, but finally, I don't think he's finished
Okay.
with the assessment of everything at Angus Complex. So those two facilities need to be included in the emergency declaration. What I did notice is the light pole, like we have electric poles down, which are pretty unsafe. And I noticed somebody, probably you, had put a cone in front of the,
That pole is actually, that's pole is actually PSOs, and they came to care.
there you go. So Mike's the expert at this point, questions, but he's been working very closely with the adjusters. I added an email today, response and just said, and when you get ready to give us money, we're gonna need to encumber some of that. So that's on its way as well. It just takes a little bit of time to really get clarity. So it's a lot. Just some questions for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Way, I'm just gonna say Ms. Kabach has been super good too. You're gonna see her contract. I am so appreciative. It's a reduced amount from what we usually approve. But she stayed engaged, and honestly, the roof portion, she's the one that said, I think something isn't right. And had Trimco come out, because I certainly didn't catch it. I don't know that Mike had that on his to-do list either. So just having that help is worth every penny that we paid you for. So.
Thank you to the site leaders too, because I'm sure they all went to
Oh,
their
yeah.
facilities and
Yeah,
had to evaluate to make sure that things were okay.
right. And it's tough because, I mean, it's June, and so some of them are off contract. The 12-month people take vacations, so those are things they had scheduled already. And so it's been tricky to navigate a summer storm when that isn't typically the time of year you have weather in that sort of way. So it's been fun business. And that concludes that. Unless you guys have questions for us.
We'll move on to item number 7.
So thank you for this meeting. As you know, I'm traveling to DC as part of the AASA governing board, 2 representatives out of the state of Oklahoma. I'm very excited about that. We have meetings with our federal representation from Oklahoma, which is super cool. One piece of passion that I have is special education and the funding thereof. IDEA was passed in 1974 and has never been fully funded to the extent that it needs to be. And when I say to the extent poorly funded, at about 17% of what it actually costs to educate special education students. And what that means is we get a little of the dollars, but then the state and our state aid and local money make up the rest of what it takes to educate those folks. And while it is a high priority on my list and we should be doing it, it is annoying that compliance doesn't come with funding to meet the needs of kids. So that's in my world a very exciting piece for me. Ms. Schleicher is not here right to now, but if you'll remember in the last meeting, she mentioned we had about 100 transfer requests new this year. Talked to her last week, Thursday, as I was writing this, Wednesday or Thursday, and we were up to 146 new transfer applications. She said, be sure to mention this, only 10 are from the Keystone Anderson in grades 9 through 12, which means that 136 are from everywhere else. I think a few of them are from the younger grades at Keystone Anderson. So again, we're going to continue to get those requests moving forward. Ms. Rowley, our new Indian Ed director, started a couple of weeks ago to train with Ms. Sanders. She is just doing a fantastic job fitting right in. The team completed their American Cultural Camp, which was the last endeavor that Ms. Sanders administrated, and it ended last week. Just a great department. We are relocating that team to the enrollment center, 2nd floor side by the virtual academy. I was able to show Lauren that space and she felt like it was better to be a part of kind of the group over here in this team versus segregated. So I'm really excited that she made that decision. So she was in shorts today and a t-shirt and sweating and moving some stuff over. So that's happening as we speak. And I think Mike's guys actually had some available time to come and help her move some boxes. So thank you for that. Need to mention Coach Clink and the storm piece, taking his football team out and encouraging them to go help. And they just did it. That's what they do. And so instead of practicing lifting weights, they lifted trees, which I think is also pretty helpful and athletic. So he's been a great hire for sure. Reminding people that we need to get back to the community that supports. So I think that concludes community and I don't know what I want this with empowering families who can move.
All right, we'll move on to item 8, health and safety, please.
Elementary team, as you know, we have an opportunity to have a third resource officer. So they're recommending Jeremy Good to fill that position that addresses assigned to elementary sites. Harmon will still be at Charles Page High School, while, as you know, Jonathan Noah will be assigned to Clyde Boyd Middle School. We still are clear about the safety allocation that we're supposed to get to the tune of, we think, 96,000. Christy and I were both on the single sign-on today, looking at allocation for the new year. There's nothing. So we're not sure. It should be mid-July, but again, we'll know more when it actually shows up. And then just mention Dick Watts. He's been the construction manager in the remodel, and he's struggling a little bit and could use some thoughts and prayers if you've got any of those to throw up. He continues to have a team that's very professional that continues to work, but I will tell you, Jeannie Kavach has stepped up in a big way to just manage a little bit more than she might ordinarily do because of his illness. So he's like one of the family almost, honestly, because he's done a lot of work for us and we know him quite well. So questions?
Well, let's move on to the consent agenda.
Yeah. So on item number 21, you're gonna see, as you make the motion for the consent agenda, I'm asking for the removal of the resignation of Patricia Furr, a paraprofessional at Angus Valley. So she's decided to stick with us. So we'll withdraw that name from approval of resignations. So that's letter B on item 21 as you make the consent agenda motion. And then on item number 22, the approval for out-of-state travel, letter A is Lauren Rowley. That's our new Indiana director. It's talking about the conference for Johnson O'Malley. It says September 10th through 24th. There's a typo. It's actually September 10th through the 14th. She's not going to be gone that many days. I want to make that
Sure, if you won't go to Chicago.
Chicago. I know. That's Johnson O'Malley said yes. Stacy Young is our new assistant treasurer. She did that oath of office. When Terry Kennedy retired, Sarah Ashton, who has been serving as our activities clerk, moved to Terry's encumbrance clerk position, and we hired Stacy. She's been a great fit, but she, as you know, is required by law. We need an assistant treasurer, so she takes on that role. Item number 29 is not new. However, I think it behooves us to mention Dr. Rachel Ray. She stepped up because if you'll remember, according to the law, we can't just administer medicine to kids without standing orders, even in the ones that are pretty much over the counter. So she's offered at a pretty nice price to take a stipend to offer those standing orders for us. District student handbook is on item number 32. You'll see a breakdown of all of the sites. Mr. Mullins mentioned that in the Charles Page High School handbook, we need to update the board member list. So Beth, if you could reflect that in the minutes to make that change. Charles Page High School still has the old list. It wasn't corrected after the election, so we need to correct that. Number 34, of course, is the Jeannie Kavach Bond Project Manager for 23-24. 36 is new. We have agreed upon an IEP service plan to allow a Keystone student who qualifies for special education to receive services in Sand Springs. Because he is not age-wise able to transfer over. And he requires, remember, the transfer piece is different for special ed. That law did not change. And so in order for that to happen, Keystone has agreed to pay for a special education paraprofessional to help support that student. And he's in Detmer, Clyde Boyd Middle School. So that's new, allowed, but done it very rarely. We've had one in the past with Anderson years ago when I was special ed director, and most recently with Tulsa Public with a student. So yeah, but this is new.
A year-to-year thing with the
Yes.
student.
Yes.
And
Yes,
this is in the eighth grade, but in eighth grade, we have 0 available slots. That
correct.
does not apply if it's a special needs. student.
That's correct. Unless we accept it under an IEP service agreement. Carrie could have said because of capacity, no, because we don't have space, but we think we're able to accommodate with this help. So I'm pretty proud of our special ed department. I do think that we do a great job with service delivery. I also think that's a key reason why people ask to be here for service delivery. We do have a reputation, and honestly, I'm proud of it. Item number 40, this is another thing to remember as you make a motion. Item number 40, and of course, you'll have the opportunity to go into the executive session, but Title I, the teacher assistant for Title I at Angus Valley, we're gonna remove this one as well, Mackenzie Lake. So that's a removal. So there's 2 removals to this agenda. That's not the consent, but we'll talk about that again.
So way to break the rule.
I'm sorry. Got ahead of myself. So any questions about any other item on the consent agenda?
Item 33, I think, first time I've seen that one, I don't understand it totally.
So Claudia is here to explain. So this is a READ initiative. It was, I'm not going to speak for you, Claudia. I'm going to let you speak. Exactly. I think I know, but I don't want to overspeak you.
For your questions about it.
I don't know what it is.
It was included in the Resufficiency Act law that we support those third graders who are retained. So it's to ensure that we provide extra services for those students who are retained, which we do.
Third graders.
Yeah, you know, the dreaded third grade reading test.
So the focus is to make sure that, and we have processes in place to make sure that students are either retained or they're promoted by good cause exemption. Or, I mean, we have a long list of things that we have to follow by state law. They are very prescriptive of what they ask us to do. So we created a form. We meet on each of those students who are struggling at the end of third grade.
Have we done this before? We have, okay, I don't recall it, so. Okay, cool.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. With the exception of, we shall remove the resignation of B under item 21. And also that one's on not consent. I used that one, sorry. You did? No, that is on consent.
It's action. I got ahead of myself. So I had to pull those.
The resignation of B 21 under 21B.
21B is what needs to be removed.
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, so
Yep.
we'll remove that and then with the corrected dates.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Item 22, September 10th through the 14th. And I think that is it.
I don't know. Make this motion.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further questions? Call for a vote, please.
Lauren,
Aye.
Waitress,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hammond, aye, Malcolm,
Aye. Move on to action item
Yes.
number 36. We're here proposal for executive session 2. Discuss temporary teacher employment recommendation. Thank you.
I'll make a motion, we move to executive session to discuss temporary teacher employment recommendations for this next year.
Can we also include?
Yeah, do we have to come back in and then go back out again? We do.
It's probably better procedure
Okay.
because then we delineate that you were in there alone. Yeah.
Okay,
I got you.
You
I
could
see.
include item number 39 is what I'm hearing, correct?
39.
37, 30. She seconded.
Any further discussion?
Is there a second?
There was.
Oh, okay.
Call for a vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Becker. Aye. Hanlon, aye, Novel.
No.
We gotta go.
Oh, I know, but I just want you to know.
Ridiculous.
Nice and cold. Oh.
Fix it.
We are now in open session. The time is 8:02 PM. While in executive session, the board discussed the following: temporary teacher employments, and that's about it. No other matters were discussed, no votes were taken.
Mr. Chairman, number 38, I'll make a motion that we approve the temporary teacher employment recommendation.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hammond, aye, Knopple.
Aye. We will move on to item 40. No. No.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the employment recommendation that identified by the superintendent.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Do you need to say except for,
Except,
oh yeah,
right, except for the paraprofessional level. Both of them at Pratt.
Just the one, Title One.
The secret says the Title I, we will delete that one.
Okay, now I have to have a second now.
I'll second.
Yes. Thank you, Beth. Good catch. Sheriff's falling asleep already. Call for a vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hammond, aye, Knopple.
Alright. Um. Item 41, proposed executive session to consider the appeal of a denied student transfer. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion, we adjourn the executive session to consider appeal of a denied student transfer.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call for vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hammond, aye, Knopple.
Aye. Thank you, because I left my drink in there. What's that happen?
We're back on.
All right, we are now in open session. The time is 8:10 PM. Following executive session, the board discussed the following of a student transfer denial form. No other matters were discussed, no votes were taken.
I
We
make-
are- Huh?
I was gonna say, I make a motion to accept the decision of the superintendent to deny transfer request of student, item number 42.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Any further discussions? None, please take a vote.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hanlon, aye, no.
Aye. Item 43.
So this was a resignation by Taylor Kondo at Northwoods Fine Arts Academy. She was asking to rescind her resignation. I'm asking for approval because we want to employ her as a dean of students at Northwoods Fine Arts Academy for the 23-24 school year.
All right. So I hear a motion.
Make a motion, we rescind the resignation of that teacher, Tyler.
Taylor Rapondo.
Sorry?
Taylor Rapondo, I think is how you say it. Yes,
Easy for you.
For the 23-24 school year.
there you go.
I will second.
Any further discussion? Call for vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
aye,
Aye. Item 44, proposed approval of 2023-2024 teacher compensation schedule.
I don't know if there's anything to say. It was just a basic rewrite of the original schedule from last year with the additional required additions of the teacher rates. So 3,000 at 0 to 4, 4,000 at 5 to 9, 10, 9, 4,000, 5,000 from 10 to 14, and 15 and above is 6. That was hard to say, by the way, but I think I got it right. Barbie's nodding, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the 23-24 teacher compensation schedule.
Second.
And then also, Ms. Becker, you put the 1%.
Yes.
the teacher.
That's correct, on the scale, that's correct.
Thank you for doing that.
Call for vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hanlon, no.
Aye. 45.
I make a motion to approve the 23-24 administrative compensation schedule.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers?
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hanlon, aye, no.
Aye.
I'll
Item 46.
I'll make a motion to approve the 23-24 support compensation schedule.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hanlon, no.
Aye.
Okay, item 47 are additional policies that we would ask the board to approve upon first read tonight. These are required by federal programs. And they're two policies that we've never had in our policy manual before, and it has been required. So we need to make amends on that one. Basically, it's proper use of surveillance cameras. So things like we have to have the signs posted at the beginning, at the building says, by the way, people, we're under camera surveillance. We, as you know, approved the installation of cameras at the secondary sites last year. We're in the middle of installation of cameras at all the elementary sites. We had Digi, which is our vendor or provider that is installing the cameras and installed the last ones to read the policy to make sure it was in compliance with federal regulations. They gave us the green light. They're a company that's very renowned, and they also do federal contracts. And so we're confident of that. And just FYI, you know this, but we have surveillance cameras not only in buildings, but also on buses. So both of those need approval.
Mr. Okay, one time we had cameras on buses, but not necessarily every bus had a camera, but the kids didn't know it. Do we still do that?
They know it.
Know which
Yeah,
one has that.
Yeah, you have to let people know that you have video surveillance. And honestly, I think in terms of research, it really is helpful for people to know because I'm less likely to maybe have a bad behavior if I know that potentially it could be saved on video, right? Yeah, exactly.
I will make a motion to approve to add the new policies to the district policy manual about the school security surveillance cameras and the school bus cameras.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call for vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hammond, Noble.
Aye. Item 48.
So these are two motions, 48 and 49 both, that we have never had on a board agenda prior to tonight. This came as a recommendation from one of our attorneys at RFR that was concerned about what he calls pickup contributions. Christy's probably going to be better at explaining it than I am. However, we have to ensure that folks can't say, I'm not going to be in the teacher retirement system anymore because it's required by law. And they're considered pickup contributions that the district pays for them. The other part of that, upon retirement, then to their salary, because the district is picking up that piece for our administrative team and then our teachers too. So we want to make sure we're protecting the retirement of folks that are getting a portion of that paid by us. Again, something we did not know needed necessarily to be done, but was a good catch by our attorney and had experience a few years ago with that being an issue. I'm not convinced other districts do that, but we're going to certainly take the advice of our hired attorneys.
Can we combine?
There are motions that have to be read out loud.
Okay.
So if somebody gets the fun job of actually reading them.
48.
Yes.
I move effective July 1st, 2023, that the school district commits to pay for each member of its administrative staff who is classified as a 12-month employee or who is classified as a mandatory participant in the Oklahoma Teachers Retirement System, OTRS, such administrator's mandatory contribution to OTRS. I move that each administrator shall not have any right to make a cash or deferred election with respect to the contributions being paid by the school district pursuant to these resolutions that would otherwise be required to be paid by such administrators. I move that participating employees must not be permitted to opt out of the pickup contributions. In other words, the employee contributions which the school district is paying on their behalf, or to receive the contributed funds that constitute the pickup contributions directly instead of having those funds be paid by the school district to the OTRA.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Let's call for a vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hammond, Noble.
Aye. Item 49.
I move effective July 1st, 2023, that the school district commits to pay for each teacher who is a mandatory participant in Oklahoma Teacher Retirement System, OTRS, a 1% contribution of such teacher's mandatory contribution to OTRS. I move that each teacher shall not have any right to make a cash or deferred election with respect to the contributions being paid by the school district pursuant to these resolutions that would otherwise be required to be paid by such teachers. I move that participating employees must not be permitted to opt out of the pickup contributions, the employee contributions which the school district is paying on their behalves, or to receive the contributed funds that constitute the pickup contributions directly instead of having those funds being paid by the school district to OTRS.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Call for a vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Hammond, Noble.
Aye. Item 50, board to take action to approve or disapprove resolution declaring an emergency pursuant to the Oklahoma Public Competitive Bidding Act of 1974.
And we're asking for Angus to be clear, Angus Valley Elementary in that emergency declaration and the baseball complex, the sports complex that is also by Angus Valley.
Does it need to be read as well?
It should be read as well. It's a tab.
Please.
It's I would ask that you include the resolution to include, the complex as well.
I've got it. I'll go ahead. Resolution, the Board of Education Independent School District Number 2, Tulsa County, Oklahoma. Whereas on or about June 18th through the 20th, 2023, certain conditions develop of a sudden unexpected happening or unforeseen occurrence or condition whereby the public health or safety is endangered, and whereas said conditions and the sudden unexpected happening or unforeseen occurrence or condition are described as during an occurrence of severe winds where a section of the roof at Angus Valley Elementary School was lifted off and set back down. And I'll add on there to the addition of
Damage.
challenge the damages at our baseball softball complex at the Angus Valley site. These occurrences caused disruption and contracted dual inspection. At the completion of the inspections on 6/26/23, the damage to the roof was discovered. Damage was also discovered on the baseball field concurrently. The scope of the work necessary to replace the roof at this site may exceed $100,000. The scope of the work necessary to repair the baseball field may also exceed $100,000. Now therefore be it resolved that the board by a 2/3 majority vote of all its members do hereby declare that an emergency exists and that the provisions of the Oklahoma Public Competitive Bidding Act of 1974 with reference to notice and bids shall not apply. The contract necessary to correct and mitigate the conditions endangering the public health or safety as herein described. The board further directs the superintendent to exercise reasonable financial prudence in negotiating contracts for the restoration and repair of Angus Valley Elementary School and the baseball softball complex pursuant to this resolution, and to deliver such contract to the board for final approval. And this is approved, pending approval of this board on the 6th day of July, 2023.
Thank you, Mike. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Call for a vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
Aye.
Lemon,
Aye.
Cobble.
Aye. Any announcements?
No, sir.
I will adjourn.
I'll second.
Call for a vote, please.
Mullins,
Aye.
Wagers,
No.
Aye. Hanlon, Noble.
Aye. We're adjourned.
Thank you. I can't repeat